David Barry reporting for Jewish Online Magazine. Our special guest today is Chazan Moshe Haschel of St. John's Wood Synagogue, and on Sunday the 22nd of April they are hosting a sefirat HaOmer choral service, and we're going to be speaking to Chazan Moshe Haschel about that. Good evening.
Good evening to you, David.
Thank you for joining Jewish Online Magazine.
It's my pleasure.
Can you tell Jewish Online Magazine viewers and readers about sefirat HaOmer?
Well, there is a lot written about it in our sources, but if we want to keep it very simple, we have a commandment in the Torah to count the days between Pesach, actually from the second day of Pesach, when we, in temple times, we would bring the Omer offering, until the 50th day, which is Shavuot, and to count every day. That's on the simplest level. On a deeper level, it means that there is a process of purifications that the Jewish people is going through. As we know, coming out of Egypt was the first stage, but in the same way that there was one thing, taking out the Jews out of Egypt, but there's another thing of taking Egypt out of the Jews. So every day that goes by, we are trying to purify ourselves and rectify ourselves in a different area of life. And by the end of this process, we are ready in Shavuot to receive the Torah.
Thank you. Is the sefirat HaOmer service at St. John's Wood Shul an annual event?
Yes, I've been to this shul now for 15 years. And since I came here, we always had a sefirat service. I think except only 1 year, for some reason we couldn't have it, but we had every year a sefirat service, and we have a following. People come.
I'm sure it's going to be a very inspirational and spiritual occasion.
Well, of course, I mean, the prayers are very beautiful, but always when you put music to them, the music adds another dimension to them. It adds depth, emotional depth and beauty as well, obviously, and that makes people more listen and get more into the meaning of the prayers. So this is why, I mean, as a Chazan, I believe very much the music has that power, and sefirat HaOmer is an opportunity to emphasize this text we are actually saying, and also the things we say and the rest of the year, like the Mincha service and the Ma'ariv service, but they emphasized with music, through music, things that we normally don't do during the year because we're always rushing.
Is the music especially arranged for the sefirat HaOmer service?
Yes. First of all, there are, as I said before, the special texts that are connected with the actual sefirat. Namely, there is the Hineni Mochen Mezuman before the sefirat HaOmer, and then we have the blessing for the mitzvah of the sefirat HaOmer, and then we have the Ribono Shel Olam, the prayer which comes afterwards. These things were composed by different chazanim and composers in different styles, and we were trying to make it really interesting and to provide this music of these prayers, specifically on the sefirat texts, but also it's an opportunity to take things which are more general, like, as I mentioned before, the text for the Mincha service, the text for the Ma'ariv service, which normally we don't do. And even I composed some years ago, even before I came to the shul, an ending to the Ashrei recitation with motifs of the compositions for the sefirat HaOmer. In other words, this Ashrei, which we start from Tzadik Hashem Echol Derechav, in fact acts as an overture to the sefirat service, to remind people of the musical motifs that are going to occur later on in the service.
Why does music play an important role in the synagogue?
Well, as I mentioned before, anything you might recite and say will not have the same emotional depth that you might get through the music, because the music is an expressing tool that can really give depth to any text. And that's number one. And secondly, the beauty of the singing make people more to listen to the things being said, sung rather than being said.
Has synagogue music evolved over the past few decades?
Well, what we call nowadays chazanut and the styles that we use nowadays, one could say that they developed over the last 200 years or so. And there was always chazanut. It didn't come from a vacuum. And the synagogue music really goes back probably to the time that we started praying. According to musicologists, Jewish musicologists, we can find in our nusach ha-tefillah, which is the particular music that we use to chant the prayers, we can find traces of the motifs of the cantillation marks, the te'ameh mikra, the te'amim even. So things developed from that, and then there were obviously other influences from host cultures, etc., etc.
One argument against chazanut today is that perhaps people haven't got the hashik, the patience to come to shul for 2-3 hours. Do the congregations still enjoy music, listening to chazanut today?
Well, I'll maybe address the first part of the question. The lack of patience and whatever. I have to stress that having a service of chazanut doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be staying a long time in shul. If you're a chazan and you understand your congregation and you are a permanent chazan and you have plenty of times to show the congregation what can be done in the service, there's no need to show it everything in one Shabbat. So therefore it doesn't mean that every Shabbat service has to be very long. You can just give one sample or two samples, one in Shacharit, one in Musaf, for instance, and enhance the davening without making it too long. So, but there is another issue here. The other thing is that nowadays, I like to call it, we live now in the remote control era. People don't have the patience for anything, not just chazanut. And if things are not too easy, they just switch the channels, as we know. So something like chazanut would demand from the listener some sort of involvement. It's not completely passive. You have to listen, and you have to really give your attention and try to find what's going on here. And all that takes some involvement from the part of the listener. And this is the more difficult problem that we have nowadays. Not so much with the length, but with the superficiality that people expect from things, right? So this is the way I see it.
But people can sit and listen and also be inspired spiritually, can't they?
It's true, provided, you see, if they go through the first barrier, they're willing to put the little effort that it's needed to be inspired, then they can be inspired. But sometimes it's difficult to go through this barrier because the reasons that I explained before. Now, the second part of the question, do still people enjoy? Well, I think we answered it. Depends on the person. And if a person is introduced to it in a proper way, there's a good chance that he will actually listen and be inspired. I must say that in Israel there is quite a revival of chazanut, not just in the concert stage. There's more concerts with chazanut, but also they invite chazanim to do a Shabbat chazanut.
Well, why is that, do you think?
I think that people started to really look more for more meaning in the services. You know, we come to a place where people just ask themselves, what am I doing in shul? And they bumped into some chazanut somewhere, and they see that someone takes the effort of expanding a little bit more on the text that we are saying, and that sounds to them interesting suddenly. And there is a revival. I must say that it's really in America as well. You know, I'm invited, in fact, to go on the 6th of May to do another sefirat service with a colleague of mine, Chazan Ben Zion Miller, in his own shul, in Borough Park in New York. So there is another one going there. And I did one in New York some years ago. There's actually a recording available in New York of this service I did with two other chazanim, with Chazan Moshe Stern and Chazan Yitzchak Meir Helfgott. We did a sefirat service there, and it was attended by hundreds of people. People are beginning to find or look for some more meaning in the davening.
Music can awaken the soul, can't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is the St. John's Wood sefirat HaOmer service one of the highlights of the year?
Depends who you ask. Right? It's an annual event. It's offered for the community and for the community at large. And we have some people from the community who come. But I must say that most of the audience comes from outside the community in St. John's Wood. And there is a following for it. Many people would come on a regular Shabbat to listen to chazanut, but because we are not in Golders Green, so we don't find so many people from outside the community on a regular Shabbat. But when they can make it on a weekday, they certainly come. We also have the Slichot service, which is also...
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
Yes, it is also an annual event, and we also have many people coming from outside the community, and they find it very inspiring.
You anticipated my question. Do you have to be a St. John's Wood member to attend? And
no, everyone is invited, and we